Okay, so yesterday we were together. This is an extension. We're continuing on with lesson 5-7, okay? We're recording, so I need everybody focused. Yesterday, the first part of our lesson 5.7 was learning how to compare fractions. I taught you how to do this. We practiced many of these in a very easy way. Do you have your materials out, ready to learn? So these are for the practice problems. So I want you to take the first 2 minutes to kind of get our class going, and I want you to answer these first 4 questions. So now you're going to need to write it down. Okay, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? Oh, that's fine. Okay. So you need to write down the problem, and then you're going to fill in the answer using the greater than, less than, or equal to symbol. Okay. Some of these should not take a half of a second to answer. Others are going to take maybe a minute. Shouldn't even take a minute, maybe 20 seconds. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes to cover these 4 questions. It's 12:55, just about. I'll give you to 12:57. What?
We completed number 2 yesterday.
That's all right.
Wait, no, we didn't. We did the exact same.
Okay, you're working these 4. Go. Now, in order to remember how to do this, and I really hope if you weren't here yesterday, that you watched yesterday's video at your house, as I specifically said, we were going to pick up from yesterday's video today. I'm not reteaching yesterday's stuff. So these are comparing fractions. What should you be using right now to solve this thing? James?
Cross multiply.
Yes, so do that. If you finished all of them, great. Just kind of chill and wait until we reach the time period. I'm giving everybody in the room until 12:57. They have 1 final minute to finish whatever is left. And you should, as a student, you should make it your goal to try to complete problems in a time frame that I give you, especially during class practice time, because that's going to help you on test days. So when you are put to a time frame, so if I give you 2 minutes to work 4 problems, you should be able to finish those in 2 minutes. So. Do you have all 4 problems on the paper? I don't see 4 problems. Do that. This is not part of what you have to do. Working through the problems is what you have to do. Okay, time is up. So now what we're going to do is we're going to walk through answering each of these, but I'm going to have individuals in the room come up, and I'm going to have you not just fill in the answer, but explain to us why the answer is what you got, okay? And we're just going to literally use our random stick generator. Don't change the color. The color is going to remain green, so don't come up here and change the colors when you work things. All right, so the first person that's going to pop up here and help us with problem number 1 is Xander. Come on, bud. All right. So Xander's going to fill inside that bubble greater, less, or equal to. Here. You got to use this. And he's going to show us how he got the answer he got. Go. Okay, you got to show me how you got that answer. Excellent, thank you. Question number 1 should be equal to. Now, I do want to show you something really quickly in case I had any of my super big brain kids out there who are great at math, who maybe noticed that sometimes when you have a fraction and you're playing with bigger numbers. For example, 12/15s, those are bigger fractions. But there might be some of you out there who notice that the fraction 12/15s is not in, thank you, simplest form. So you could have taken the fraction 12 and 15, and you could have put it into simplest form first. If you did that, what would 12/15s turn into, Cassidy? It would turn into 4/5. So then you wouldn't have had to have done any cross multiplying, because 4/5 on one side would obviously be equal to 4/5 on the other side. Okay, so that's one way, that's one option. And for those of you who are like, how did she get 4/5? Well, what did you do, Cassidy? So she noticed that the greatest common factor between 12 and 15 was 3. So she divided each of those by 3 to get her 4/5. So you can do that. That's an option. Okay. Next person for problem number 2. To work out problem number 2 is
Henry.
Henry. Come on, problem number 2. All right. Henry's going to knock this one out. Show the work. See how he up above showed what his brain was thinking? Yeah. I want to see what your brain is thinking. Use cross multiplying. What do you get?
21.
Put that answer above your 3. Go the other side. Thank you, very good. That's your answer for question number 2. Now, this one was mixed numbers, right, people? But mixed numbers don't change anything. As long as the mixed numbers, if they match, if those whole numbers match, then we just move over to the fractions and we cross multiply, okay? Nothing different. We just stick with the same system. All right, moving on to number 3.
Carson.
Carson, let's go.
He called it. I said I was gonna get.
All right. This is the one, Carson, stay right there. This is the one that I said you should be able to answer some of these in less than a second. So Carson, did you have to do any work for this?
No.
Why?
Because 3 is bigger than 2.
3 is bigger than 2. And so therefore, anything that has a 3 as a whole number is always going to be bigger than anything that has a 2 as a whole number. So don't waste your time cross multiplying on problems like those. So you're wasting time. Use the whole numbers to help you to create your answer. Okay? Last one, number 4.
Brody.
Brody.
I called it. I said Brody's gonna be no problem.
All right. Show your work, show your work.
I know.
Okay.
No.
All right. Ooh, you like your answer? Okay, good. He originally, thank you. He originally started to answer some of this a little bit in his head, but then when I said, show your work, and he said, all right. So, he then ended up showing that, wait a minute, 36 is not, it's actually smaller than 40, right? So he fixed it. Now, in this one, why, Brody, did you have to cross multiply? How come you just couldn't do what Carson did?
Because they're both composite numbers.
Oh, wait a minute. Come on, you do know this. Look, a minute ago, Carson said that the reason why he knew the answer so fast was because this one had a 3 and that one had a 2. How come you just couldn't do that so fast for yours? They're both 2. So is the whole number going to give you the answer you need? So he had to move over to the fractions and do his cross multiplying. You all get this?
Yes.
Okay. That is, so when we look at the title of what today's lesson is all about, the title says we're going to learn how to compare and order fractions. So at this point, you now know how to compare fractions and mixed numbers. Okay? Everybody has a big giant thumbs up for that, right?
Yes.
So now let's move on to how do you order these things. All right, this is new stuff, okay? So I'm now gonna take you to a new page. This page here has a lot of steps to it again, but I want you to take a freeze. Just like yesterday when I taught you how to compare fractions, I didn't want you to just write everything you saw. Today when I teach you to order fractions, I don't want you to just write everything you see, okay? I want you to give me 5 minutes. If you can give me 5 minutes of you locked in and listening to the best that you could ever possibly lock in and listen, then I guarantee you, you will leave here today knowing how to do this. Now, if you only listen for 3 minutes, then you're gonna miss some stuff. But if you can give me 5, that means no hands up, no questions, all focus, all listen. Can you do it?
Yeah.
All right, let's do this thing, okay? I'm gonna give you 3 fractions. So first off, when we're thinking about ordering things, we're not talking about ordering pizza, okay? We're talking about putting things in a certain order. So when you were in 2nd grade, let's just go back to the days when things were so simple. And you got a number like 24, 78, and 62. And you were told to put those numbers in order from the greatest to the least. That's what you were told to do. That was pretty easy, right? All of them were whole numbers. They all looked the same. They all were whole numbers. They kind of matched kind of what they were all like. So as long as you knew how to count and you knew ones and tens, you could figure out which one was the greatest number. So in this situation, what's obviously the greatest, people?
78.
Then what?
62. 24.
There you go. So if things were that simple still, that's all you would be asked to do. But unfortunately, you've now moved into 5th grade world where you know how to order whole numbers. And now we're going to challenge you and see if you can order fractions. So where this sounds like it could be confusing and tricky, it's going to be as easy as this is. But there's going to be a couple of more steps you have to take. So that's why I say you got to give me 5 minutes of full attention. All right? So the first thing I'm going to tell you is that I have a lot of kids who mess up on this stuff, not because they don't know how to do it, but because they don't read directions. If the directions tell you to put things in order from the greatest to the least, then that means the biggest number has to be listed first. If you reverse the order and do it from the smallest to the largest, will your answer be right? No. So I'm going to start class today by telling you when you get to these parts and this stuff on your test, you're not locked in. Then you're going to end up, if you don't read the directions, you're going to end up having errors. Okay? So always, always, always read directions first. Okay? So let's look at this example that I want you guys to play with. Okay? So we are going to play with, let me find one that I want us to use. All right, let's go with 3/4. Write this as I write it. 4 7s. And lastly, 5/8. All right. So you've been given a direction. The direction is to put this stuff in order from the greatest to the least. So right now, you're like going, oh God, this looks hard. But it's not. There's a very simple recipe. The very first thing that you're going to do to start to find this answer is you have to find the least common denominator. Because right now, people, those fractions don't look the same. And does anybody in this room know, in order to work fractions, to solve them, to find answers with fractions, what has to match?
The denominator.
The denominator. The denominators have to be the same. You can't add a fraction, you can't subtract a fraction if their denominators don't match. So that would also mean we can't order them unless they are matching. And right now I have a 4, a 7, and an 8. So that means I got to do some work before I can put these things in order. Okay? Now I don't want you all to think, oh, that's easy. You know, 8's the biggest number, so that one would go first, 7, and then 4. No. If you think that it's going to work that way, you're not going to get these things right. Will it sometimes work out that way? Maybe. But that was just luck. Not because 8's the biggest and 7's the middlest and 4 is the smallest. So if it was that simple, then you would have done that back in second grade when they were teaching you how to put things in order using numbers. Okay? So the first step is to find the least common denominator. All right. This you've already been taught how to do. How do I find the least common denominator? Who in here knows? Okay, so Max's hand goes up, James' hand's up, Addison's hand's up, Olivia, Connor. I've got about 7 people in this room who are saying to me, I know how to find the least common denominator. So that means the rest of you don't?
I do.
Well, then you need to find it in your notes. Because I taught you how to do this already.
I do.
If you don't know how to find the least common denominator, you get 1 minute to try to figure it out. When I teach you things in math world, you cannot forget the things that you've already been taught. How do you find the least common denominator? That's what you're searching for. Those people that know, you're not searching. You already have it already in your brain bank. But these people who have lost it, this is what happens on tests. You guys forget how to do things that you've already been taught. That makes me worried. All right. Addison thinks she remembers. Addison, how do I find the least common denominator?
So what you need to do for some people like that are visual learners, they need to find, you take 4, 7, and 8, and you list the multiples of them.
Beautiful.
And then,
So if I was just looking at a 4, and then a 7, and then an 8, and you were being asked to find the least common multiple of 4, 7, and 8, as Addison just said, you would need to start listing the multiples. So this was that homework assignment that you all worked on that took you forever, and you hated it because it took a long time. You will get to the point that you can look at all 3 of those numbers and right away know the number that they have in common. But for those of you who can't, you've got to do the hard work. You got to list the multiples. So let's just, for now, for those people that need that extra work, let's go ahead and list these multiples. What are the multiples of 4? Go. No, the multiples, not the factors. Factors, listen, if you all confuse this, it's dangerous. Factors go with factor trees. Multiples go with denominators. So I need you to give me the multiples of 4. 4,
8, 12, 16, 28, 30, 24.
wait a minute. 16 times 5, you all skipped me on something.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. 20. I said
20,
28,
24.
28, 32.
Okay, let's stop. That's a lot, okay? Let's move on to the next number, 7. I now have to find 7's multiples. Go.
7, 14, 21, 28, 35.
Now, notice you're just doing multiplication facts. 7 times 1 is 7. 7 times 2 is 14. 7 times 3 is 21. 7 times 4 is 28. 7 times 5 is 35. 7 times 6 is
42.
7 times 7 is
49.
7 times 8 is
56.
okay. Let's move on to 8's factors. Okay, so I've got 8.
16.
8 times 3.
24.
8 times 4. 8 times 5. Sorry. 8 times 6.
48.
8 times 7. Okay. Now, that's a lot of numbers. Have I found a number that they have in common yet? Have I found one, James?
Well, no, but 4 goes into 8 perfectly, therefore it could technically be 56.
All right. So he's noticing that there's a 56 here. There's a 56 here. We don't have a 56 yet in our bunches of 4s, but did we go up high enough?
No.
So what if we keep going? 4 times 9.
36.
4 times 10.
40.
4 times 11.
44.
4 times 12.
48.
4 times 13.
52.
4 times whatever I'm at.
56.
Okay. Okay. Now, there are some of you in this room who didn't need to go through all of that work. Because you looked at 4, you looked at 7, you looked at 8, and instantly you saw 56 was the thing in comments. If you were able to do that all up top, high five to you. But there are some of you, Max, this way. There are some of you out there who need to see it to find it, and that's perfectly fine. So do that. Don't try to be something you're not. Don't try to find something inside your head if you are struggling to do it. Do the work to find it, because then it's guaranteed that you'll find it, right? So now I know step 1, back up above, okay, says I have to find the least common denominator. Well, look, people, when they're just numbers sitting here by themselves, we call them the least common multiple. But when those numbers turn into fractions, they're called least common denominators. But it's the same thing. They just have a different name because now instead of just sitting there as a number, they're now sitting there as denominators. So we call them least common denominator. Do you understand so far where I got my least common denominator?
Yes.
Okay. So what is the least common denominator, everybody?
56.
56. So we're going to kind of add this over here. We had to find our least common denominator, and we did. Okay. So I'm going to now clean up this because we're going to need this space. You all would not erase this. This would all be stuff on your work page. You leave your work page filled with stuff because it helps me to see how you came to the answer you got, okay? And now it's time for us to then do step 2. So step 2 then says, in order for us to put these things in order, remember, what do we have to make our denominators do? What do we have to make our denominators do? Max?
They all can be 56 and they all can be.
That's match, right? In order to put things in order, they have to match. So step 2 is going to be make new denominator. Okay? So watch this. This is where I need your attention. This is where all the magic happens. Okay? Directly underneath each of these fractions that are currently here, I'm going to start building new fractions with my least common denominator, which you all are already told me is 56. Okay? This is exciting. So step 2 says make new denominators. Did we just do that?
Yes.
Yes. Step 3 is now going to be make new numerator. Okay? Make new numerator. So to make the new numerator, here's the steps you have to take. I said you have to lock in for 5 minutes, maybe 7 minutes. 56 goes into 4. We have to divide this, okay? You will do this every single time. So I want you to think, divide starts with what letter? D. Denominator starts with what letter? D. So what do you do with denominators? Divide them, okay? 56 divided by 4 is what?
14.
14. That 14 is kind of what's in your brain. You take that 14 and times it by that 3 that you have from up above. What's 14 times 3? 42. That becomes your new numerator for that fraction. Okay? Do you see how I did that? I divided my denominators, got that answer, and then times it by the numerator that I already had. And then I got a new fraction down here below. So let's do that same thing again for this stuff in the middle. Divide this stuff. 56 divided by 7 is? 8. 8 times 4 is?
32.
That's your new numerator here. Last one. Let's divide here. What do we get? 7 times 5 is? That's your new numerator here.
But
Okay?
32.
Pretty easy.
So now we can put this stuff in order because now things match. So if the directions are asking us to put things in order from the greatest one to the smallest one, which fraction in green that we started with is the greatest one? And you would know this because you would look at the numerators and you would say, well, what numerator is the biggest? Colin, which one?
42.
42 is the biggest. And what fraction does 42 go with?
3/4.
3/4. So that means 3/4 is the greatest fraction. Do I want you to put your answer using the original fractions? Yes. Those were the fractions we were comparing. We weren't comparing this. We just had to do this to get our answer. But the green fractions, those are the ones that you're going to put in order. So then what would be the next greatest one? I already used this one. So I have a 32 and a 35. What's bigger? Tessa? 35. And that goes with which fraction? So 5/8 would be the next greatest fraction. So then the only thing left is what? This one, which goes with 4/7. So here, friends, is your order. And that's the order from the greatest one to the smallest one.
Is there any fast trick? Is there any fast trick?
That's the fast trick.
That's so long.
Not really.
No, it's just because we talked through it.
So let's try another one. Okay, here we go.
How much homework will we have?
Please stop. I mean, you all expect everything in life to be something that you can be done with by the time you snap your fingers. I mean, Lordy, you might have to put a little bit of effort in sometimes to some things. All right, let's walk through this one, okay? What happens when we're playing with mixed numbers? Okay.
Just came out.
Here we go. Well, you've been back there yanking on it the whole time. 5 and 5, 6. Go get some water. Go. That's your first one. Your second one. 5 and 3 9s. No. I'm trying to use my example from earlier. I think. No, it's 4. It's 4. Sorry. 5 and 3 4s. And then the last one is 5 and 11 12. Okay? So just because this is mixed numbers, does it change anything?
No.
No. I mean, all of the whole numbers are the same, so we can't use those to help with our order, right? I mean, if the whole numbers were different, then it'd be easy. Because we would just put them in order as the whole numbers were. Yeah?
I know which one.
Well, let's see.
How?
So let's figure this out. We have to find what was step 1 on that other page. Step 1 is, Brady? What the least common denominator. So here's our numbers. We have a 6, a 4, and a 12. What's going to be the number that if I listed the multiples of 6, and I listed the multiples of 4, and I listed the multiples of 12, what's going to be the number that they have in common?
2.
Nope. If I list multiples of 4, am I ever going to list a 2? Careful. Multiples, 4, 8, 12, 6, 12. The last one. 12. What's the least common denominator? 12. Don't confuse multiples with factors, okay? So yes, the greatest or the least common denominator for these 3 numbers is 12. So underneath, we are going to start building. There are hums and sounds from the crowd. I wish that would stop. So we are going to start building those new denominators using that new least common denominator, okay? So underneath each, what's going to be my new denominator? 12. Should I bring my 5 down with it?
Yes.
Yes, you should. It's part of that fraction. So it needs to come down with it. Okay? Now, let's fill in our numerators. All right, so I would like for Brennan. Tell me what my numerator would be for this guy right here.
So 56 times, no, 12 times 5 is 60.
Wait, we don't times, what do we do? Divide. Okay, so 12 divided by 6 is 2 times 5 is. That's my numerator here. Do the same over here. Emily, tell me what my numerator is going to be. Huh?
4.
Mm-mm. What are you going to do first?
5.
You got to talk louder.
Oh, is it 3?
No, you're just guessing. A minute ago, I taught you how to do this. So walk yourself through it. What do you do with those two denominators? You divide. What do you get? 3 times this 3 up here is. That's your numerator. That's what I was searching for. What about in this final one? I know some of you already know this answer. Hallie? It's 11. Thank you. She divided this and got 1. 11 times 1 is 11. So your fractions should be 5 and 10 12s, 5 and 9 12s, 5 and 11 12s. So this time, we're going to put this stuff in order from the least to the greatest. So the smallest one gets the first position. Which one's smallest? So use your numerators for help. Everything's matching, so the top number is what we use to help. The smallest numerator, Shane, is what?
5 and 9 12.
5 and 9 12s. So the fraction that goes with that one that we started with, Shane, is? Sorry. 5 and 3/4. So that one gets the first position. 5 and 3/4 is the smallest. That one's done. What's the next one, Brady?
5 and 5 and 6.
5 and 5/6. That's the next one because it goes with the 10. 10 would have been the next one. And so then the final one is 5 and 11 12. So that's your order from least to greatest. Who gets this? That's awesome. That's a large amount of you. Okay. So we're going to finish class today with one final more. Okay. So I'm going to take you to a work page. Now, I don't want you to do any work yet. Just use your voice and talk. Number 1. Why don't we have to do any work for number 1? Max.
They all have the same denominator.
They already have the same denominator. So then that means all I do is use those numerators and put them in order. So look at what my directions are saying. Largest to smallest. So which numerator is the largest? 7 over 8.
Least to greatest.
Sorry guys. Least to greatest. So which one's the smallest? 3 over 8. Next one?
5 over 8.
5 over 8. Last one?
7 over 8.
That one was simple. We didn't have to do any work, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's move to number 3. Okay. Shh. Number 2 is actually a simple one too, because they all are ones. So now we just use the bottom number, but this is where some people are don't get confused when I say this. If they all have ones at the top, the bigger the number at the bottom, the smaller the fraction is.
I understand. Yeah,
Okay.
I understand that.
And think of it like, something being cut into pieces. And then think of the size of those pieces. If something's cut into 8 slices, those are going to be smaller slices than something cut into 5 slices. Right? So, but try number 3 and then I'll leave you alone. Okay? Give me the answer for number 3 and then you can stop class. So,
Hello.
what?
On homework, there is a 3, 8, 1, 7, and 1, 2. The common denominator of all of them is the common denominator of all of these. Wait, so the common denominator is like multiplied by 1, or just the same.
No, what is the least common denominator between 8, 7, and 2? You would have to list the multiples. The top numbers have nothing to do with it. I need you keeping your head up when I'm teaching you because that keeps you more involved.
Number 3, right?
Number 3 is the one you're trying to investigate. Okay, now remember, you've got 4 steps. You got 4 steps. Step 1, you have to find the least common denominator. Step 2, you have to make your new denominators, right? Step 3 is then make new numerators. And then your 4th and final step is to put in order. So do that for number 3. Let me work it out and then you can come and show me if you're. So least to greatest, right? All right, who thinks they have it? Bring it to me if you think you have it. I want to see your order. Remember, I want to see the fractions you started with. You got, wait a minute, the last one. Remember, go back to the original fraction. Okay?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you didn't put the right fraction. Okay, so this is what you got, but you have to go back to those fractions and put those fractions in order. Okay, so like which one of these is smallest? This is the smallest number, right? So this one went with that. So this one should be in position 1. See what I'm saying? Okay, oh, sorry. Yes, good.
I am a genius.
Yes, good. Yes. Oh, yeah, you're good. You're good. You're good. Sorry. You got it. Yes, good. Yes, good. Yes, Grady.
I know I
You got it. Yes. That's the right answer. Now, the only thing, so you did all this work, but you need to put these fractions in order. So, like, since this one's the smallest, it goes with that one. So that would be first. And then this one's the next one, and it goes with that one. So that would be next. And then this one's the biggest, and it goes with that one. And that's the right order. This is how I want to see it. That's all right. That's all right.
pretty sure I got it.
So, yeah, you do have to repair. So 20 divided by 5 is 1. And then 4 times 4 is, that should have been 16. And then you would have had it. So, yes. Yes, got it. Okay, well, first off, the least common denominator, that's big. Yeah, it should have been 20. 20 is the first number that you did with the algebra common. So build a new fraction for 20.
And I could put
Yes. Got it! Nice. Yes, got it. Nice.
I actually wrote mine pretty small.
You got it. Good. Oh my gosh, you guys, I'm so proud of you. You almost all got it. That's amazing. For those of you who I didn't get to see, your order should have been 7 tens, 3 fourths, and then 4/5. Okay? So your homework this evening is those workbook pages. What pages are they, Sophia? If you had it out. What page?
87 and 88.
Thank you.
Good, Alden.
Yes. Sophia, we have, life is not about finishing like this, right? We gotta put a little effort in sometimes to get things done, okay? What a girl, 80 what?
87 and 88.
Okay.
Wait, are we doing all of this?
Your guitar teacher told you that you had to work on your guitar. You would have to do that, right? Yeah. Sorry. I'll help you at the end of the day, okay, Brody? Let me move on and I'll come back to you.
Did you guys get a bathroom break after class?
You always do that in my ear.
Huh? Do I? See, and I say the opposite. Okay. All right, guys. So we got work to do. So remember, we are going back to our math, okay? Because we have to get this math finished for today. You knew that when we started our day today, that we didn't get a chance to have religion. Hey, can I move this distraction so I can? Thank you, sir. Okay. All right. So while you're getting your things out, I'm going to kind of get my stuff over here prepared.
I haven't been taking any notes today because there's no notes to take.
Well, yeah, because you kind of already know how to do this. And plus, you're listening and learning. And so, therefore, you don't even need the notes. Why is there constant bangs on the locker? Like, it happened like 2 times, but now that it's happened 4 times, like, I'm feeling like it's on purpose. So, please stop. Okay. All right, y'all. So, yeah, y'all have to help me to remember where we left off. Hang on, let me erase all this stuff from the other classes. Otherwise, when I give it to you, you're going to see it all.
Here it is.
Which one is it, Camden? That's the one we left off? Okay. All right, so. Let me see it again. That's the 4/5, 7/10, 3/4. We were ordering things?
Yeah, we had a problem and you gave us.
Okay. All right. Okay, perfect. So let's go here. Camden was reminding me what the problem was. Come on, you got to get your math out. You're not moving with a mission. Your mission is to get math out. All right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yes, Anna. Oh, okay. Hang on just a second. All right. So the last thing that we left off with, I think, according. Oh wait, I don't have stuff hooked up, so nothing's going to show up. Let's try this one more time. Okay. I need a pen. Marker again. Oh, ah. All right. So Camden, remind me, Bud, what was the problem? Just read it out to me.
It was 4/5, 7/10, and 3/4.
Okay. Excellent. So let's think back to earlier today. So in order to put these things in order, step 1 was to do what? Yeah, we got to find the LCD. Okay. So we got to search for the least common denominator. Don't confuse factors and denominators. That's very easy to do, to confuse those two. You just have to train the brain. Factors go with factor trees. Least common denominators go with fractions. I don't know how you want to train your brain to do that. Make a little rhyme or something, I don't know. Okay? But the least common denominator between 5, 10, and 4. This is our mission. Find this. We already kind of did before we left class earlier today. So what is the number that we found that they all have in common?
20.
20, okay? So you should start building those new fractions directly under the ones that they gave you, okay? Now, how do I find step 2? So step 2 was to make a new denominator, which we just did, right? What was step 3? Okay, make new numerator. So how do we make this numerator? Sophia, how do we make this numerator? Do we know how to do this? Did Dad teach you this yet?
Yes.
Okay, let's see if you can remember.
Did we divide like 20?
Yes, we did. Good, thanks. Division starts with what letter? D. The denominators start with what letter? D. So think in math, things that start with D go together. Division, denominator. So, okay, so we're going to divide these two. So Sophia, 20 divided by 5 is what, babe? 4. What am I going to do with that 4? I'm going to multiply it by that 4 that I started with. So, Sophia, what's 4 times 4? Yes, it's 16, okay? So that's that first one. Who wants to tell me what the second one should be? All right, Campbell, what should my second one be?
20 divided by 10 is 2. And then 2 times 7 equals 14.
Excellent, that's my new one there. Who got that one? Nice, high five to you guys, bam, bam. What about the last one? Tell me. Come on, Alice, what's my last one? I have to turn my ears on for Alice.
15.
15, beautiful, good. Okay, so she did 20 divided by 4, she got 5. 5 times 3 is, bam, 15. Okay, now we have things that look alike. We have denominators that are matching. Things just got super simple. Now it's time to just put these puppies in order. And all we do is use the numerators for help. So if I want you to put this stuff in order, let's just say from the greatest to the least, then which of these numerators is the greatest numerator? Cody?
16.
16. So this numerator is the biggest one, so that means this fraction is the greatest fraction. So as you form your answer, people, you're going to put your answer using the fractions we started with. This is like your work. Like you don't put the work as the answer. You put the answer using the stuff that we